Hey pool chasers, welcome to the first episode in our 4-part filter series. In part 1 of this series, we will be discussing why filtration is such a vital part of a pool and spa. We talk about how you can explain filtration to a customer so that they can understand it, how to choose the right type and size filter, what effective filtration area means, and much more. Stay tuned on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week as we release episodes on sand, DE, and cartridge filters. You don't want to miss them. Please enjoy episode 126 with Frank Swindell and Mike Childress of Pentair.
Welcome to your go-to podcast for the pool and spa industry. My name is Tyler Rasmussen.
And my name is Greg Viafania. And this is the Pool Chasers Podcast. All right. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us today on the podcast. We really appreciate it. Can you share with the listeners your role with Pentair and your responsibilities?
Yes, this is Frank Swindell. I'm product manager for filters and valves for the pool division. I am responsible for all the products that fall under the pool filter and valve categories. I got into the industry in 1980, getting a job with a local company, earning money to go to college. Little did I know that small pool company would grow into what Pentair is today.
Yeah, it sure did grow.
And my name is Mike Childress. I'm a regional training manager for Pentair. I'm part of a team that organizes and does training events across the country, educating people on the proper installation and operation of pool equipment. Been with Pentair for 30 years. I started in 1990. Similar to Frank, needed money to go to college, and I'm still here.
Very good. So before we jump into specific products, because we're going to have other episodes after that are very specific to other filter types, can you guys please explain what filtration is exactly and why it's such a vital part of a swimming pool or spa?
Yes, the filtration process in a pool is simply to remove insoluble matter such as dirt, debris, algae from the water. Filters work by screening out these particles. Filters remove the dirt by simple dilution. This means that the filter removes the dirt and the pump returns the clean water back to the pool. The clean water dilutes the dirty pool water. Therefore, it takes time to continue to dilute the water until it becomes truly clean. A filter removes dirt or organic particles. It does not purify the water quality.
And what are some of the signs that a filter might not be working properly?
Some of the indications, when you talk pool filter, it actually has, like I said, removes the particles that you can visually see. So it's actually for clarity purposes. So when you start seeing clarity changes in the pool, could mean you have an issue with the swimming pool filter. Also, it could mean chemicals are off. So you also want to balance or keep a close watch on your pool chemicals to make sure that stays in balance, because that creates a clarity role in the pool. Other things are like debris around return fittings in the pool, such as sand, dirt. Right after you vacuum the pool, if you see it, any kind of debris sort of showing up around those return outlets to the pool, usually mean you have something going on with your pool filter.
Right. And it's pretty much, there's no way that you could even have a swimming pool or spa without having some type of filtration system. There's also a lot of safety things that go along with that. What do you think the best way to explain the importance of filtration to a customer is? Because don't think that they fully understand the importance of it and why there's the routine maintenance and all the different things that go along with it. What do you think is the best way to explain that?
Well, you definitely want your pool water to be clear so you can see in it. When you start thinking about where we swim for enjoyment, some people swim in ponds, and a pond is not necessarily, it's not clean water, but it's not clear water, so you really can't see what's in it. So when you're swimming in a swimming pool, the importance of having a pool filter, one of the important reasons is you want that water to be clear so you can see what's in the water, so that there's no hazards. You don't have somebody directly under the water that when you jump in, you're jumping on them. So it's basically for clarity purposes. Also, it removes particles. It's the first part of the hydraulic cycle, which basically you filter out the particles and then you can sanitize the water to make sure that it's just safe to swim in.
With filtration, you're removing the particles, and that is the first part of the hydraulic principles we deal with is filtration. You have to filter the water then you sanitize the water. And then the third principle of hydraulics is circulation. Filtration is important because if you don't get the particles out of the water, that promotes algae growth and bacteria, things of that nature that makes pools unsafe. So filtration is extremely important when it comes to the safety of a pool. The clarity, of course, but normally if you have a failure in your filtration, you're going to start to see physical debris on the pool, either in the bottom, the step area, areas to that nature. You're going to see the debris start to build up. And then that in itself creates a clarity issue because now your sanitation begins to fail as well because it can't keep up because of excess debris in the pool. So filtration is key. And for homeowners, it's a good thing to look for initially. If you see debris in the pool that's not normally there, you could have a filter problem. And if not addressed quickly enough, that can cause a greater issue with sanitation coming as a failure net.
And there's nothing more inviting than a clear body of water to just jump in to cool yourself down. And just, you want that clarity in your pool water.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think the main reason we asked this question too is because a lot of times when we're running our pool service company, the homeowners would mess with the trippers and lower the run times or tell us it doesn't need to run that long. And as we know, with it being a key part of those three hydraulic system, then it's very important to be able to explain it to a homeowner so that they understand why we need it to run for 8 to 10 hours or whatever you're running it for, instead of dropping it all the time, because they feel like they're saving money by dropping the run time, but they're causing all these other issues with the filtration and circulation that they don't understand.
I think that's a good point that you bring up, that customers shorten the run times and pool professionals have to make up the difference for that. A lot of homeowners don't put 2 and 2 together correctly because they'll shorten the run times and it takes a week or two for it to catch up. And then the pool professionals are the ones suffering, trying to correct all the issues because you have filtration. And as Frank said earlier, it's a consecutive dilution. You have a certain body of water that you have to filter a certain amount of times to get clean. It gets dirty the same way. If you turn it off early, you gain a little bit more dirt back into that pool every day. And within a 2-week period, now circulation has failed, filtration can't keep up, and then sanitation can't keep up. So if one hydraulic principle fails, it brings the whole house of cards down. We have to have homeowners realize that if you keep that system running, it can keep filtering. If it keeps filtering, you can keep sanitizing. If you can keep sanitizing and filtering, you're going to continue to circulate the water. And that's going to be a good pool for the homeowner.
Right. And understanding that you can't have one without the other. You can't just put chemicals in a pool without circulation and water movement, filtration. And you can't have just filtration without the chemistry side of it. So that's
absolutely
important as well.
Yeah, I think when they're used to walking into Leslie's or something, and they get their water tested, all they're seeing is that chemical part. And when they get reports from the pool technicians, all they're seeing is what we're adding chemical-wise. They really don't understand the 3 different parts, and that's why I wanted you guys to touch base on that for the pool service companies out there so that they can understand and teach and educate their homeowners on why these things are important. It was always a battle between us and homeowners on that, and I think we got a little bit better towards the end explaining it, but it took a long time to get the proper verbiage so that they would grasp what we're talking about.
And again, the simple dilution, knowing that it doesn't take the particles out right away. It takes over time because you're only passing a small volume of that water that's truly in the pool through the filter at a time. So as it comes back, when it comes back into the pool, it is clean, but the water that's there still has dirt particles in it. So the more water you get through the filter, or you continue to pass the filter, the cleaner the water gets.
Right.
In Leslie's defense, a lot of homeowners go in there and people say that they got sold a ton of chemicals and stuff, but
Sure.
They don't always tell them that, you have a 20,000 gallon pool and it's starting to get cloudy, but you didn't tell them that you have the wrong filter on your pool. It's a single bullet trying to filter all this water. But
Yeah.
I just wanted to put that out there that the more that you educate the homeowner on the equipment that they do have, the better that they will be if they do need to shop around. And I think that is important. I mean, that's their equipment. They do own that. And you do get a lot of respect and props for actually sharing that information.
Yes, agree. Education of the end user is extremely important because, like you say, a lot of times they do not share all the information with the professional, with the pool store where they take the water in. It's just again, a very small sample of water. Tell me what's wrong with it. And it's truly an entire system, not just a body of water.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you look more professional when you can explain it to the customers and explain it to the homeowners. It makes it sound a little bit more complicated for the homeowner to take care of themselves. When you explain it correctly and you're able to answer all those questions, they realize that taking care of a body of water is more than just adding chemicals to it.
When I teach classes to pool professionals, we always talk about how big the pool is. You have to filter 25,000 gallons. And how long does that take? And we do the calculations for turnover rates. How many turnovers do you have to have? Filtration and sanitation, they deal with that 25,000 gallons. When you have to educate a homeowner in not turning the pump off too soon, it hurts circulation. Circulation, we don't really think of it in any other terms other than 25,000 gallons. But in actuality, you're not circulating 25,000 gallons. You're circulating about 208,000 pounds of water sitting in a hole in your backyard. It takes time to make that water move. It's 208,000 pounds of a mass. You have to make that water move. And what homeowners don't understand is, why are the corners getting dirty? Why is the step area getting dirty? Simply put, they're turning the pump off, not letting circulation happen so they can move the water in those areas. And it breaks it right down to the dirt that the filter can't get is going to stay in the area where the water doesn't move. And when service professionals educate homeowners to keep it running so the water can get through the filter, because you have to make 208,000 pounds move as one body. And a lot of homeowners start to understand that, if you can't move the water in the corner, that is where the dirt's going to stay because it can't get to the filter to be taken out.
Yeah, once the body of water stops moving, those particles that are suspended in the water will drop. So as the water's moving, it keeps it in a constant flow, and those particles then make it to a drain or to a skimmer where they're pulled into the filter.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good explanation. Pentair is adding technology to help ease the experience of owning a pool. Take control of your pools with their all-new automation control panel, IntelliSync, and the Pentair Home app. With the IntelliSync, you will get affordable automation, 24/7 pump control by monitoring via the Pentair Home app, easy installation, which will actually allow you to plug directly into a 120-volt outlet, freeze protection, which helps safeguard the pump in cold weather conditions, and you will receive maintenance alerts to stay ahead of any issues. This can all be done through the Pentair Home app, which allows the ability to command all of a home's water systems at any time. It gives your customers peace of mind by giving them instant status information and monitoring from home or away 24/7. It notifies them when equipment needs attention, and it has the ability to connect them with a trusted professional like you. Stay smart, connected, and protected with Pentair. Learn more about the IntelliSync and the Pentair Home app at pentair.com or click the link below. As Greg said earlier, just about them not understanding they have a single bullet on a 20,000 gallon pool. It's hard to see and gauge sometimes what size filter should be on a swimming pool. So what do you recommend for figuring out what size filters should be on a certain size swimming pool?
Depending on whether it's residential or commercial. Commercial, as Mike said earlier, it's the amount of, you take the body of water, you understand what the size is, and then you look at how many times do I need to turn this body of water to keep it clean. For commercial, you're looking 6 to 8 hours is what the turnover rate is for commercial. Residential, you can go 8 to 12 hours. So just simply taking a 25,000 gallon pool, like Mike mentioned earlier, if you want to turn that residential pool over in 12 hours, take 12 hours times 60 minutes, and then you divide your 25,000 gallons by that 720 minutes, or 35 gallon per minute is what you need to be flowing through your filter. So then you go to your filter options and say, what are the filters that handle at a minimum 35 gallons per minute? And that's how you would size a filter to a pool. And there's lots of different types of filters that we manufacture that have flow rates that range from your 30 gallons per minute up to your 150 gallons per minute. But you want to make sure that the filter itself can handle at least that flow that's calculated by your body of water.
And why do most commercial pools have sand filters?
Most commercial pools have sand filters. I would say basic ease of use is probably the number one reason. You basically have the sand itself as the media that cleans the water. You basically have a simple valve. It filters, it backwashes, and doesn't require a lot of other steps to be taken. You just basically redirect the water with a valve, clean the filter, and then redirect the valve back to the filtration cycle. So ease of use is probably the number one reason why.
The ease of use is definitely there, but also the serviceability of it. When you deal with commercial properties, they don't have the downtime to do the maintenance required for filtration for either cartridge or DE filters to be put in those applications. You're talking about a lot of flow, a lot of filter area. And with cartridge or DE, you would have a number of filters that you would have to clean. And in a system to that nature, on commercial properties, you can't clean just one filter. They all work as a unit. They're all individual filters, but they work as a unit to meet a specific turnover rate. So when you have the downtime to do the service on them, you're talking about taking 6 or 7 big filters or DE or cartridge filters apart at the same time. You're talking about a long maintenance time on that. And most commercial properties do not have that time. Whereas in sand filters, even with multiple filters, when you backwash them all at the same time. And the backwash process doesn't take 10, 15 minutes. So you have very short downtimes for maintenance.
Right. Thank you.
So you talked about gallons per minute, and a lot of what we see from the field is this effective filtration area, square footage. Like this cleaning clears have 240, 320, 420. FNS has 24, 36, 48, 60. Can you kind of explain what those terms mean so that we can understand them a little bit better?
Yes. Effective filtration area is basically the total filtration surface area that the filter has that's available for capturing dirt or a particle of matter that's larger than the space of opening of that media. So like sand filtration, when you look at the effective filtration area of a sand filter, basically sand filter has a sand bed. So the top layer of the sand bed, which is the first layer that comes in contact with the water, would be the effective square footage of filtration area for a sand filter. But it also utilizes the depth of the sand bed. But in calculating effective filtration area, you use that surface area, the top surface area of the sand. And the sand itself, as a media, has very sharp particles, sharp edges that actually create that path for water to travel through. So as your grains of sand pile up next to one another, the water basically goes through little channels with the dirt and crevices capturing the debris. DE filter, you have a skeleton that has to capture, a skeleton covered in some type of cloth that captures the DE. And the DE coats this fabric, and then the DE has the channels of water. So when you have this large DE panel or grid panel inside a DE filter, that total surface area where the water touches is your effective square footage. So when you look at side by side, a smaller filter in overall exterior size may have more square footage because you have these panels inside that capture this diatomaceous earth that does your filtration. Then you have cartridge. Cartridges, they're made by a non-woven material. So basically, if you look at it under a microscope, it looks like really, really fine spaghetti noodles that are all intertwined. And this makes a fabric that basically has a bunch of really small holes. It's then pleated to make the cartridge. So in a cartridge filter, you have the most square footage effective filtration area of any of the other types in the same size canister because of these pleats. All the area of that pleated fabric now capture dirt particles. So it just has a lot more effective square footage in a cartridge in the same type of canister. But that's what effective square footage. So when you say a sand filters have been around longer than any other means of filtration. And most of your sand filters, the designation shows the gallons per minute they'll handle. Like a Pentair Triton TR100 has the ability to handle 100 gallons per minute. And in that's a simple calculation through the NSF that says a sand filter can handle 20 gallons per minute per square foot. So when you do the math, a Triton 100 has about 5 square feet of effective filtration area and will run at 100 gallons per minute. All right, if you look at a DE version, all right, our DE versions, when you look at the FNS Plus, you have a 24, 36, 48, and 60 FNS Plus. Those numbers are the effective square footage of filtration. FNS Plus 60 is 60 square feet of effective filtration area. And for DE, you're rated at 1.5, 2.5 gallons per minute per square foot. So you look at the two gallons per minute square foot, or 2.5 FNS Plus 60 will run about 140 gallons per minute, between 120 and 140 gallons per minute.
Awesome.
Move into the cartridge, the 240, 320, 520, that is the effective square footage of a cartridge, and cartridge flows at an average of 1 gallon per minute per square foot. And when you get to the oversized cartridges, the flow rate for the filter it can handle more flow than the actual plumbing itself will. So in most of our cartridge filters, we top out the flow at 150 gallons per minute.
Okay. Great. Thanks for all that explanation. I think the reason we asked that question really is, sometimes we're out in the field and the labels have been destroyed, by the weather, or, some of them have been painted over sometimes. How can you maybe determine the size of what filter that is if you can't read the label?
In most cases, you can't determine the size of the filter. It's probably going to require a phone call, or if you have one of our product catalogs, you probably can deduce what it is simply by measuring the height and the width of the filter. And looking in any of our catalogs that we have, it shows what the overall height of each filter is, the overall width of each filter for sand. DE and cartridge, sometimes you have to take for cartridge, you can take the lid off the filter, and usually the end cap of the cartridge will tell you what the filter is. If not, again, simple measurement, length times width. I have a cartridge filter. You can go to those pages and look at what they are.
Yeah, again, sand and DE are fairly easy. As Frank says, if you know the diameter and height of the tank, those are fairly easy to determine. The only one that's kind of difficult is the cartridge, because the same canister can have 2 different cartridges in it to be either a 150 or a 200 if it's one of the single cell filters. So that you would have to take apart to, again, identify the cartridge within it to find out which it is. But the 240, 320, 420, those all vary in height. So if you're dealing with the multiple cell, the height of that tank will determine what kind of cartridge filter it is up until you get to the 420, 520.
Each Clean and Clear Plus, just like Clean and Clear Plus, FNS Plus are in the same canister, and each one has a different lid. The 24, the 36, 48, 60, each one gets larger by 6 inches. But Mike was 100% correct about the Clean and Clear single element. The 50, 75, 100 all have separate separate canisters, but 150 and the 200 have the same housing, just as more pleats in the element.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say that too, because the bottom of the body of your clean and clear, 240 through 520 are the same, but the tops get higher and higher. So that's
correct. About 6 inches, exactly 6 inches.
Yeah, I think that's the same way with the F&S Plus, right? You use the same lower body, and then the height of the top of the canister gets bigger.
And we also have the Quad DE, which is a different animal. It's
right.
Instead of a skeleton covered with cloth, it's a thicker woven polypropylene that's then pleated, and that basically has a 60, 80, and 100 square foot, because you have the pleated structure instead of a curved grid structure.
Right. Yeah, those can kind of surprise you if there's no label on them.
Yeah.
I've pulled I thought it was a DE, with grids, and you pull it off and it's got cartridges, and the first time you see that, it's pretty confusing.
Yes.
I don't think DE is supposed to go on cartridges.
And remember, if a filter's painted, there might be a reason for that too. They might be trying to hide something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, the sand filter is a little bit easier to judge. Their sizes are quite different, but a good way that I've always looked at the cartridges and DE filters is the lower tank bodies are the same, and as they get bigger, the height of the top tank body is higher. It's a little bit easier to justify. 420 or 320 are pretty close, so those sometimes you can misjudge those, but that is the case. They just get taller, so if you know how much the measurement is on those top tanks, you can kind of figure out which one that is without taking it apart. Since 1979, Lion Financial has helped make backyard dreams come true nationwide. Lion Financial is a specialist in pool financing solutions, offering low rates, long terms, and unmatched customer service. Their programs offer your customers the best in pool financing options, with programs available for scores of 640 and above. Lion Financial will finance more than 21,000 projects in 2020 and is a premier leader in pool financing options. Due to popular demand, Lion Financial's 2.99% special for a 3-year term has been extended throughout the remainder of 2020. Lion Financial's experience is unique to pools, not just any type of loan. They are a partner with both the homeowner and the pool builder until the project is completed, ensuring pool professionals are paid on time and in full. It is absolutely free for pool contractors to partner with Lion Financial to grow their business. Lion Financial is committed to providing an excellent customer service experience. Homeowners will never be charged a consulting fee or prepayment penalties, and a pool builder will never be charged a swipe fee for accessing their own hard-earned money. When it comes to something as important as a pool and all the memories that come with it, work with true professionals who have your best interest in mind. With more than 41 years of experience specializing in pool financing solutions, why trust anyone but the experts? To find out more, check out episode 94 of the podcast or click the link below. Yeah, so moving on from that topic, when you're looking at an equipment pad, and some people may not know this quite yet if they're just new to the industry, when you're looking at the equipment pad, where should the filter be plumbed in as part of the system?
When you're looking at where you actually plumb the filter, first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you mount the filter on a permanent slab, or preferably maybe a concrete poured pad, or maybe concrete block or brick. You don't want to put it on sand. As you have weather, sand can wash away, make the filter unlevel, could crack piping. But physically, where it is placed on the pad in reference to the other equipment, you basically want it after the pump, before the heater. So basically, your pump is moving the water from the pool to the filter. So you normally want it after the pump, and then you want your particles removed from the water before it passes through a heater or any type of sanitation process. And usually if it's a sand or DE filter, there will be a directional valve in between the pump and the filter. So this cartridge filters don't have the backwash valve in between the two.
Right. You made a good point with the pad underneath. I think that's something we learned halfway through our company, and just when we hired a real repair mechanic who knew what he was doing. I don't think we ever really looked at the equipment pad underneath it, and when we would switch them out, if they were broken, we kind of just left them broken. And as we got more educated as time went on, we realized how important that slab is that it's not cracked or broken, so that the filter is not shifting while it's running, because like you said, it's a lot of heavy weight in that filter, and if you're shifting it, you're shifting all the plumbing. So as we got more advanced in our knowledge as far as repairs, we started to replace those equipment pads quite a bit, and understanding what it does to the rest of the system.
It is a good point that, you have to look at the equipment pad itself. And a lot of people do overlook that, especially from the homeowner aspect. If you have runoff water from the roof from rain, it'll wash out under a non-permanent equipment pad. Somebody puts pavers down, it'll wash that out, and it'll eventually shift the equipment and cause cracks and damage to equipment and plumbing. So that is something that's important for homeowners to know. If they're doing upgrades or they need a filter or a pump change, it may require updating the pad itself due to erosion.
It's also important that when you have this, because you see it more now as people are making more elaborate backyards, the closer the equipment can be to your pool, the better for all the hydraulic advantages. However, we are creating a backyard environment with your swimming pool. A lot of times you want that equipment not where it's seen. But the further away from the pool the equipment pad is, the more calculations have to be made because of the amount of pipe that's in there and the pressure losses that you have in the system due to that not being close to the pool. So that's important as well.
Yeah, thank you. And for people that might not know anything about filters, do all filters, sand filter, cartridge, and DE, do they all have sort of an inlet and a discharge side? Because we didn't really talk about how the filter actually moves from the pool through the pump,
yes,
and then it goes out back into the pool.
You always have all your swimming pool filters have an inlet and an outlet. You got dirty water coming in, and you got clean water heading out. Sand filters, we have two different types of sand filters that we'll get into, I think, in a later episode, a Triton and a tagless. Triton, you have your water coming in and out the side of the filter. A tagless, and our sand dollar models, you have a valve, a top opening in the filter, and the inlet and outlet are actually in part of the valve that then directs the water through a standpipe. Your DE, your cartridge, they all have an inlet and outlet. The big thing about a DE filter and a cartridge filter, your inlet, you want to have some type of diffuser as the water enters. So you're not, for a DE filter, you're not blowing the DE off of your skeleton right where the water enters. So you basically don't want a direct path of water to the elements. Same thing with a cartridge. You got to have a little diffuser there, so when your water enters, you're not blowing the pleats apart right where the water enters, which affects your filtration area of the cartridge.
Yeah. And I asked that because we were just talking, and I remember, when talking about, where the filter should be plumbed out on an equipment pad, is that when you don't have a good equipment pad and the base of a filter is not flush on the equipment pad, sometimes it can be really difficult in the field to line up the inlet and discharge side to whatever's going on. So I just kind of had a thought about that plays a role in that area as well.
Yeah, the other thing that's really important is you do want to make sure you have the space around your filter to work, because if you ever have to maintenance your filter, you have to get to it. And there are so many times you'll see people when they plumb equipment pads, they try to cram all the equipment in such a small area and then plumb it. And it looks like spaghetti. So when you have to do any type of maintenance, trying to get to your filter, your pump, or your heater, you've got this mess of plumbing that's a maze to try to get through to work on any particular piece of equipment. And you want your filter to have adequate space around it, 8 to 10 inches around it, so you can maneuver around it to do any type of maintenance when the maintenance is performed.
Right. And when you were saying diffuser, is that something that it comes with the filter already?
Yes, it's built into all of our DE and sand filters. And when I say diffuser, it could just simply be a pipe that enters and has a 90-degree turn and directs the water to the very bottom of the filter. So instead of it coming straight in to the vessel, it comes in and it's directed away from the filter elements themselves. It could be a plate where the water comes in and it hits. It's like and it diffuses the water to the right and left. And a sand filter, a diffuser is used because you want to break up the water and evenly distribute it across the entire sand bed when the dirty water is coming in. So all of the filters have some type of diffuser to direct the water to the right area of the filter.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that everybody understands they're already kind of in the filter, not something you had to like plumb in on the outside.
It's not something you have to add.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. And what kind of safety precautions should be made when working, with filters or working on filters?
First of all, what we recommend, do not operate your filter until you've read and understand clearly all the operational instructions and warnings and messages that come with our manual. So you understand all the importance and safeness of all the equipment in the pool circulating system, and make sure you follow the guides that we show there. Whenever you're working on it, always disconnect the power of the circulating system so that no water's moving. You always open the air relief valve on the pool to make sure that there's no air in the system. That's the first thing you do before you do anything else is open the air relief. But again, disconnect power and lock it out so nobody can actually turn it on while you're working on it. Those type of things are the important. Never attempt to open a filter until you look at the pressure gauge and relieve pressure. Never operate your equipment over the maximum operating limits that are set for your equipment. Mike, you want to add something to that?
I always recommend, if I'm teaching to anyone, basically homeowners or pool professionals, no matter what your purpose is, being on that equipment pad, if you're going to be near the filter, always check the pressure gauge on the filter. If there's any indication of pressure and the pump is operating, always open the air relief, always. That'll relieve any air pressure. If you do not have any air coming out and there's no water coming out, but you still show pressure and your pump is running, turn the pump off and leave the area. Air or water should come out of that filter when you open the pressure relief. At that point, you want to relieve any pressure, find out why that relief valve is blocked. You have to get the air out of the filter. Air can be compressed, water cannot. It can be pressurized. If you compress air, it becomes violent and it basically explode on you. To whereas if your filter is full of water and it has a catastrophic failure, you'll probably get wet and irritated. That'll be about the damage you'll incur. So educating homeowners and pool professionals, always open the air relief first and verify there's no air in the filter. If water comes out, close it, do whatever job you have to do on the equipment pad. That's the safest thing you can do when working on a circulation system, is verify there's no air in the system.
Do you recommend turning off the breaker or kill switch?
Absolutely. Whenever turning off the system, if you're going to do any kind of maintenance on the system, not only turn the switch off for the pump, but turn the breaker off. So you disconnect power at 2 points for that system. That way, no one can come back around if you're working on the filter or working on any other piece of equipment and flip the switch on for the pump and it just start running. So it is wise, if you have a switch and a breaker, to disconnect them both. If you only have the breaker, I recommend disconnecting the breaker. And if it's out of sight, use a tag out lockout so you can lock that breaker from being turned on without you knowing about it. Because if it's around the corner, somebody can come up and just flip it on and then turn the corner, and there you are getting sprayed by the pump. So it's always a wise thing to kill the power and ensure that it doesn't get turned on accidentally.
Yeah, I think, we wanted to talk about safety because it looks like something that you don't really think about too much when you're doing filter cleans as a professional. You do it so often that it can go, without being made a priority. And it really is something that everybody needs to take caution when you're working on these things, that they do kill people. They are pressurized systems, especially if you don't know much about pool equipment or filters. Like, you have to take precautions in working on these things.
And I pointed out more so now that the industry is starting to change and we're pushing variable speed pumps and it's becoming part of the laws that's coming into play. Variable speed pumps have the ability to pick up small amounts of air and put them in your filtration system. The velocities through the filters with these variable speed pumps are dramatically lower. Now, each filter has an internal air relief that is actually going to use a vortexing effect to draw the air out of the top of the tank and put it back to the pool. But at some of these lower velocities, you don't have the great vortex you would at a higher velocity or higher flow rate. So some of that air will stay in the top of these filters. So it's very important to open the air relief to relieve that air pressure, because a lot of times when we're working on equipment, we may go to a higher speed on that pump to run a vacuum or do some other kind of equipment testing. And when you go to that higher velocity, that air pressure in that filter is going to get compressed, and that could cause a safety hazard. So again, my first step is always to have customers open the air relief and ensure there's nothing but water in that filter.
Right, and that's probably why it's so important to make sure that your pressure gauges are always working correctly. Like if you get to a pool and the equipment's not on and it says 15, 20 PSI, it's probably extremely important to make sure that you get that replaced.
That's why you always open that air relief valve, like Mike said. When you get there, open it up, because if the pump's not running and that gauge is showing pressure, could be a chance. You could have some check valves in place. Open the air valve; it will release the air. Issue of compressed air is eliminated because you've opened the air relief.
Right.
And with variable speed pumps, it is important to do that, because a lot of times if you look at the pressure gauge, you may not be registering a filter pressure with a variable speed pump and it operating. You're running under a lower flow rate. There's less resistance in that system at a lower flow rate. That means there's less pressure in the system. That doesn't mean there's no pressure. It just means it's a lot less. So you can have a pump running and not really display any filter pressure on the filter, but it have flow going through it. So another safety aspect, you're going to do a filter service, don't assume the pump is off because it's quiet, because a lot of variable speed pumps look like they're not even working. Right.
That's what I tell my daughters when they're not paying attention. I'm like, there's a lot of hybrid cars. You're walking down the sidewalk and, a little kid, you're not paying attention. And these little hybrid cars, they're electric and they're backing down a driveway. You don't hear it, but they've already halfway down their driveway. And because it's so quiet, you don't realize it. A little dad analogy for you people.
I can relate to that.
Amen.
So, there are three main kinds of filters, the sand, DE, and cartridge. How do you know when to use one over the other two? Are there different surroundings that make a difference for these?
When you say how you choose, yes, there are three basics: sand, DE, and cartridge. Most cases, it's preference. You may have, as Mike mentioned earlier, when you look at sand filtration, you may want ease of use. Sand is basically very easy to put in place. Could even automate the backwash, filter and backwash sequencing, so you really don't have a lot of hands-on. DE is one of your it's a media that requires, when you clean it, you got to recharge it. So once you have to backwash or clean your filter, you actually lose your filter media. So it does require a recharge of DE to keep your filter working. And then cartridge, a little more time. You got to take the filter apart, take the element out, and hose it off. So a lot of times people choose it for ease of use. Other ways of choosing it is what level of clarity do you want? When you look at sand basically filters 50 to 25 micron level. Cartridge is 10 to 20 micron, and then you've got DE, which is around 5 micron. 25 micron is smaller than you can see with the eye. You have got to look under a microscope to see 25 microns. So when you start talking micron levels, they're very, very small. But when you start talking about a lot of particles in that 50 to 25 micron level, it can cloud up the water. And so when you look at it, it may be a clarity. I'm looking for clarity. And then the final one, which is one that's become probably more prevalent over the last 5 to 10 years, is the amount of time between your cleaning cycles. A lot of times your pool builder will come in and do the calculation on what swimming pool filter you need, and then they'll upsell you to a larger capacity filter. Like cartridge, your pool could probably use a 50 square foot cartridge filter, but they'll put a 400 square foot cartridge filter on there. And what that does is that gives you more area to catch dirt, so it gives you a longer time between clean cycles. So if you're looking at cycles of cleaning, you may pick a cartridge filter because of the larger effective square footage for filtration. And then the last one could be water clarity. If you really, really are utilizing your swimming pool in the evening where you have a pool light, you may want that finest clarity of water, which is what DE provides you.
That is one of the big points that I push to service professionals that are looking to replace a filter. Maybe they're replacing lighting and customers are going with the LED light technology where they have different colors. A white light transmits very well in a pool, to whereas color light has a harder time transmitting distance. And when customers go to the expense of upgrading their lighting, using a DE filter enhances that, because you're taking out some of these particles and you're getting down to the 3 to 5 micron range. That means that light transmits further in the pool because there's less particles in there. With a sand filter, when you turn on a pool light, you're going to see those particles in the water. And if it's a white light, it's still going to transmit very well. They're reflective, but any kind of color is absorbed by anything in front of it. So that's going to diminish an LED color light with a sand filter. That's one thing I do recommend. If you're going to a job and you're replacing a filter and they have nice lighting, they have a nice surface, even a darker surface is even better, to use a DE filter to get better clarity so your light performs and you make your customer happy.
Oh, that's a good point. Never thought about that one.
Yeah, that's all really good. And what kind of warranty do these filters come with?
All of our Pentair filters come with a full 1-year warranty from the date of installation. So it's very, very important that when you buy a filter, could have been in warehouses, make sure that you do register to get that install date. Can get some extended warranties if you utilize up to 3 pieces of Pentair equipment: pump, filter, heater, pump, filter, automation system. So there's ability to extend the warranties past that 1 year if you do utilize more than one piece of Pentair equipment.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate all the awesome info on filtration here. Where can people find out more information and, get some training on if they want?
Yes. And for training, if you were to go to our website, pentair.com, you can go into our training site and it actually lists dates and events for local training events and actually Pentair University events. The local events are the smaller events, 50 to 100 people. The university events, we've had as many as 400 people, 400 plus at our universities. And we conduct those. Normally our training season runs from August until April.
Right.
So we have training events all over the country for that period of time.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys both for the great information. We'll put all the links for Pentair down in the show notes and everything so you guys can find all that. But we appreciate you joining us today on the podcast.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Pool Chasers. Thanks for checking out this episode. Did you know that each episode has its own page on our website? This is where you can find more information about the guest and episode topic, as well as all the resources that we discuss throughout the show. To get to the webpage, click the link below. Also below, you will find links to the sponsors of the show, as well as links to follow us on our social media channels. On our channels, you will find some of our favorite clips and bonus material. Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Our tag is Pool Chasers. We also have a Facebook group for the Pool Chasers community. Here you will find like-minded professionals all looking to make each other better. One last thing. If the episode has brought you value, please check out our Patreon page to support us. And if you could please rate and review the podcast, we would love to hear what your favorite topics are. Thank you for your time and your ear.
See you out there, Pool Chasers.